I'm Glenn Roberts, Chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Do we have any addenda to the agenda?
No, sir, we have no addenda, but in your packets, the minutes from the July meeting were included. We noticed that after the fact, so we will bring, if it's okay with you, the September minutes from last month back to you at the next meeting to be approved along with the meeting minutes tonight, if that works for you.
Okay, we don't need to vote on it.
There will be no vote for the minutes tonight.
Okay. All right, then we'll go straight into public hearings. We'll do AA 2510, a variance request to allow accessory structure from front yard, 515 Allenby Road.
Yes, thank you. This is 515 Allenby Road, and to get you oriented as to where it's located, it's on the corner of Allenby Road and Hilltop Drive. You can see it highlighted in the red right here. To the right, to the east, you can see Marchbanks Avenue, also Calhoun Street. Over toward the southwest, you can see Rantals Road. It's the neighborhood that's situated between that. Obviously, McCants Middle School is not pictured on this, but it is located to the north of it. And again, Greenville Street is located to the west. Here's another vantage point of the property we're talking about tonight on the corner. What you'll see in the black, and again, this is not to scale, it's just showing you the general area of the subject area that we're talking about tonight. So that's where it's located on that portion of the property. But the applicant is seeking a variance from front yard requirements at his property for an accessory building that was recently installed without obtaining a permit first and going through the variance process. Building permits are required for accessory buildings when they're over 200 square feet. This building is approximately 450 square feet, so a building permit should have been obtained for this size of structure. Like I mentioned, this is a corner lot, so it has road frontage on two sides. And just to make sure you're oriented, the portion of the house facing Allenby is the front of the house. So the portion where the building is located currently is on the hilltop frontage. Now, per the zoning ordinance, section 14.6 of the guidelines, it states that if a lot has two street frontages, then they have two front yards. So the guidelines pertaining to front yards apply to both. If it's a corner lot in this particular instance, they are considered to have two front yard setbacks. And we'll dive into this request a little deeper in their zoning ordinance. It says that a front yard is defined as the area between the street right-of-way and the main building. And it says in section 14.10, that's the accessory use section, it states that accessory buildings must be located in the side or rear yards. It goes on to say that accessory buildings may be located in the side or rear yards, but they may not occupy more than 30% of such yards measured from the interior building, and no accessory structure shall be located closer than 3 feet to the property line. But the property owner installed an accessory building measuring 40 feet, 3 inches in length, and 11 feet, 3 inches in width. So again, approximately 450 square feet. But since it's a corner lot, much of it extends into the front yard along Hilltop. So only 7 feet is behind the front corner of the house. So about 33 feet, 3 inches of the 40 feet encroaches into the front yard. Therefore, the applicant's requesting a variance from front yard requirements in the amount of 33 feet, 3 inches. Now, I'll show you a few photographs here pertaining to where it's located right now, but then this is kind of a view from Hilltop, kind of near the corner of Allenby, actually. This is a view from Allenby. You can see the front of the house looking down the driveway. You can see the building in the background. Also, to the far right, please note that you can see the pavement for Hilltop right there, so that gives you a vantage point as to where it's located in relation to Hilltop Drive. This is the building as you look at it from Hilltop. Another photograph of it. And this is another photograph from Hilltop. So we've discussed this in the past that in order to grant a variance, as a Board of Zoning Appeals, you are charged to look at the findings of fact that are stated in the zoning ordinance to help make your decision based off of those findings of fact, and we'll go over those again. But in the zoning ordinance, it does say that a variance may be granted in an individual case of unnecessary hardship if the board makes and explains the following findings. There's 4 findings of fact. So if you can justify these 4 findings of fact, a variance can be granted. One is that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property, like size, topography, or shape. Also, another factor to consider is that the conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity. The third one is that because of those conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of property. And then the last finding of fact to consider is that the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by granting the variance. So those are the factors to consider, and when looking at variances, and again, not necessarily things like, well, if the public's not opposing it, then we should grant it. It needs to be more substantial than that, and the findings of fact is a good guide to follow when making these decisions. That's what you were charged to look at when looking at all types of variances. Now, as you can see, the staff made a recommendation of denial in this case. We went through each of the findings of fact and gave our opinion. I'll go over those real quick. We see that it met one of the findings of fact, but not all 4 of those. But in terms of the extraordinary conditions, we determined that, in our opinion, that the site is not unique. Yes, it is a corner lot, but the lot is similar in shape and size to the other ones in the vicinity, and topography is generally flat in the area. But again, it is a corner lot, but the site is not unique in terms of the topography or size or shape. The other finding of fact is the other property, whether or not that these conditions don't apply to other properties in the area. We do support that. This is a corner lot with 2 front yards, therefore it's a condition that's not applicable to other lots in the area. When you look at utilization of the property regarding the standards of the zoning ordinance saying that it restricts them from doing what they want to do, we don't think it really restricts them because they can have an accessory building on the lot. Perhaps a smaller building would be more suitable than the large one that we're seeing here. Also, the front yards along Hilltop Drive are, this is the 4th one actually, but the detriment to the character of the neighborhood. We see that the, let me show you a slide here. The front yards along Hilltop Drive, you can see it kind of outlined by this red line. That's where the frontages are. We feel like that is generally consistent along Hilltop Drive, and adding to a building in the setback that will encroach well beyond that red line could be a detriment to the surrounding community because you don't have structures located beyond that front line of the building. So just wanted to share that with you as well. But again, that's the staff's opinion of the findings of fact. And again, when making your decision, you can discuss your opinions regarding those findings of fact. But we do want to say that this is a corner lot, and there are some constraints in the back of the property. You can see in the slide that there is a swimming pool located there, and a smaller building with a very small encroachment into the front yard may not be as impactful and could possibly be acceptable and justifiable from a small hardship standpoint. But we see that an encroachment of over 33 feet into a front yard is excessive in the staff's opinion. And unfortunately, you see the building on the ground here. It was installed without a permit, so we weren't able to head it off before it was brought to the site. We could have talked about other options, like maybe a smaller building, situated a little bit differently, but it is on the site, so it is what it is right now. But I do want to end it by saying that with a 33-foot encroachment, we need to ask ourselves a question that would a precedent be set for future cases that come to you if a variance is granted for 33 feet for a variance of this magnitude. So we just wanted to leave that with you. Be glad to answer any questions from the staff. I do know the applicant is in attendance, and he would like to address the board as well.
All right. Any questions for staff? I'd like to say just verify, just like, because we do have some new members. to, when you're looking at these findings of fact, all four need to be, within, the limits for it to be approved, right?
That's right. You need to consider all four findings of fact and make a justification for each one.
Okay, all right. And as far as we know, so it's already there, the applicant didn't have an application, the contractor put it out there, or if there was a contractor, whoever moved it there, didn't have an application either?
I'm not aware of them having a business license. Again, it appeared, we found out after the fact. So we do know, though, that a building permit was not obtained.
Okay, all right. Any questions for staff? All right, I understand the applicant is here. If you would, just come to the mic, state your name.
Hello, my name is Daniel Rutledge. I'm here today with my wife of 17 years and our son, Mark, here, who is 12, along with a neighbor as well. We're long-term residents of Anderson, have lived in our home on Allenby Road for almost 10 years. Our home was built in 1962, and our neighborhood is very quiet, friendly, and with very little traffic. A few months ago, we purchased a storage building locally from CNS Storage Solutions, 28 Bypass. A few months ago, we purchased, this is the first time we've ever made such a purchase and didn't think to ask the owner of that business if there was anything needed from the city in order to purchase a building and have it set up. We're sorry for being naive in this matter, and if a solution can be reached, we're willing to pay any permitting fees that would have been charged during that process. Soon after purchasing the building, we're informed by the city that a complaint was made about the building, and we're told that these things are purely driven by complaints. We later found out that the complaint was that we had placed a mobile home on our lot, our 0.63 acre lot. As absurd as that complaint was, we were also informed that being on a corner lot means that we have two front yards, and what we consider to be our side yard has the same restrictions as our front yard, even though the building does not impede anyone's view, and the land directly across the street on Hilltop is undeveloped. It's worth mentioning that in searching for a building, we intentionally selected one that we thought added appeal to our neighborhood, as reflected in the multiple conversations we have had from neighbors who love the look of the building. I've given a list of a few of those. Not sure if y'all have had a chance to review those. Three of which have a direct view of my property from theirs. Others have called to leave a voicemail in favor of us keeping the building, even though I was told by one of them that the voicemail box was full when she attempted to call. So far, my request has been recommended for denial, but I'd like to address the four factors that were given to you for consideration. One, it was stated that although I'm on a corner lot, the property is not unique. I presented a visual showing my lot along with 1503 Hilltop next door and the two homes next to me on Allenby for comparison. Outlined in blue in each lot is what each property has available out of what is considered front yard space. My property is the one, the bottom right, where you see the big blue X that does cover my pool and which was installed in 1963. Can anyone look at these four properties and not pick out the one that is unique? I can't, or can I? It's pretty obvious that one of those homes has not even half of the available space that the others have in what is a buildable area. The usable space of the other properties is at least double that of my property, even with including the pool as usable space. Can any of us look at this comparison and not honestly say that that meets the definition of unique? It was also stated that the ordinance pertaining to the front yard does not prohibit an additional structure to be added to the lot. Instead, it was stated that the property is indeed limited, but only due to the existing pool. The original owners of 515 Allenby were the Kennums. I know this because I've met multiple people over the last decade that have given me stories about swimming in the pool that is at my home. Apparently, the Kennums were well known and often let neighborhood kids swim in their pool, so I get to hear a lot of interesting stories. All of these people that have told me this are older than I, yet they swam in my pool as a child. My point here is that this home is unique in that it was built in 1962, has over 3,300 square feet, and was built with a pool. But being a larger one-story home with a pool, much of the land is taken up, as you can see. I purchased the home with the pool without knowing that one day having a pre-existing pool would be considered a factor on whether or not I'm allowed to have a storage building. Again, I refer you to the visual showing that the vast difference in backyard space between adjacent properties. It was then stated that the homes along Hilltop Drive were consistent and that this structure would be a detriment to that. Yes, that statement is an opinion, but I'd like to ask if the opinion of those living in the neighborhood matter, if we're looking at that as an opinion as well. Whose opinions should matter the most when making decisions for homes within a neighborhood? I know you've received phone calls from neighbors with positive things to say. I've submitted several emails to you all, if you've been able to read them, with feedback from those neighbors. Anytime I'm in my yard, I get to conversations with people driving by or walking their dogs. 100% of the feedback that I've received has been positive, from those telling me how nice it looks, thanks for adding to the appeal of the neighborhood, and so forth. This feedback includes 3 of the 4 neighbors that can see my property from theirs. It's worth mentioning that the 4th neighbor, is it possible to scroll these pictures? Sorry. So these don't update it with any of the newer ones I posted? Sorry. I wanted to, okay, that one's good there. It's worth mentioning that the 4th neighbor, which I have not been able to speak to, is the one home directly adjacent to my property that does have the most overgrowth in the entire neighborhood. You're unable to see this building from that yard because the weeds and vines overtake part of the house along with my yard. They've destroyed my fence in my backyard. Again, the overwhelming feedback from those that live around me is that the building does indeed add to the character of the neighborhood. In my opinion, there's no merit that the building detracts from anything. After all, this is an expensive structure, and I believe that it has cosmetic appeal. Lastly, it was mentioned that I should simply get a smaller building. I have pictures if you'd like to see, but again, this is more my problem than yours. I've taken a few pictures of the items that I need to put in this storage building. I'd like to, for once, to be able to park my vehicle in my garage and reclaim that area just like any man would. What is considered my office space in my home is also used for storage. I'd like to move that out. And I grew up riding dirt bikes, 4-wheelers, and things of that nature, and I've always wanted to share those experiences with my son. So after many years of working long hours with long commute, I finally have the time that it takes to do these things. So I recently purchased 2 very large 2-seater go-karts that are 6 foot in length. Without this building, I will not be able to keep them. Along with the go-karts, I have a riding mower, like most of you, riding mower, push mower, 3 electric bikes, an outdoor ping pong table, a pool table. I've got a 12-year-old son, power washer, gas generator tools, and so forth. Ultimately, I do need that amount of space. That aside, I fully believe that my situation does indeed meet the criteria to have a special consideration. I just wanted to mention a few names of my neighbors that have reached out to me directly to tell me how much they like the building and believe that it actually adds character to the neighborhood. Randy and Kim Lawless, 513 Allenby, live in the adjacent lot beside of me. Chip and Stephanie Kinsley, 514 Allenby, directly across the street. Shirley Marchbanks at 1430 Hilltop, which is the closest home across the street from Hilltop. And again, directly from that view there, Hilltop is undeveloped, so there's no one that actually has a direct line of sight to the building. Catherine Smith, 400 Hayward. David Williams on Allenby. Richard and Kimberly Spear, 506 Allenby. James and Linda Chadbourne, 510 Allenby. Larry Pressure, 405 Allenby. These are just the neighbors that I have their addresses, not to mention many more that I've just had conversations with, because I have many people in my neighborhood that walk their dogs, travel through, and it's a very friendly neighborhood. But I appreciate your time and would like to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rutledge. Any questions for that?
You know, can I ask a question of staff after hearing from you?
Yeah, I know we're gonna get there. Let's ask him, and then if somebody else wants to speak in behalf of the applicant, we'll do that. And then we can go back to staff, because I have a question for staff also. Any questions for the applicant? Is anybody here that would like to speak on behalf of the applicant? Is anybody here opposed? All right, thank you very much, Rudy.
Thank you for your time.
Staff, if you don't mind. Go ahead.
So in looking at the lot and what's considered the front yard, so would he be restricted from being able to put any kind of fence or any kind of structure there?
Around the perimeter of the yard,
That's correct.
a fence can go into the front yard, side yards. That is allowed per our guidelines.
Okay, so like a privacy fence could
Yeah.
go there, and that
Correct.
wouldn't take away from the appeal, but a building like this would take away from the appeal?
If it screens it from view, perhaps it would do that.
Well, I'm
Yes,
just saying the structure in general. So like if they had a privacy fence, that doesn't change the, I guess, the makeup or the facade of the neighborhood, but like the building would?
According to the guidelines, fences, if I'm following you correctly, fences don't apply to our front yard setback requirements or anything like that.
Oh, I understand that, but I mean, I think in the finding of facts, there's a determination whether it would be, the variance would substantially be a detriment to adjacent property.
I got
and
you.
the
So having a
character of
fence
the
would,
district.
having a fence would soften that, you mean?
No, I'm saying if you can have a fence, how would that be different than having something, a structure this way? If they have the ability without restriction to be able to put a fence, that seems like it would be an allowable structure that would greatly affect the kind of the character of the, I don't think it would be
Yeah,
harmful,
I got
but
you.
more than this structure, I guess I get to reconcile that issue.
Right. The fences are not addressed in the zoning ordinance regarding its location, its setbacks. When we talk to someone about fencing, we just tell them, hey, keep it off the property line because you're sharing a property line with somebody else. But in the zoning guidelines, it does address accessory uses and accessory buildings, and that's what we're looking at today. But I hear what you're saying about the fences, but our zoning ordinance just does not address it. It doesn't fall in this category regarding the front yards or front yard setbacks.
And if there was a fence, would there still be considered the front yard, even if it was a privacy fence?
The yards are, there's two front yards considered here because it's on a corner lot. A fence wouldn't negate that from being a front yard, but one could say it could screen the view or whatever the case may be, depending on the fence.
My question was gonna be pretty much along the same lines of yours. If this was not a front yard setback, would the building be within a regular side yard setback?
For side and rear, it needs to be 3 feet off the property line.
So it would be within a setback
If
for a
that-
regular.
if that
this
street-
was
if-
not an additional side yard, an additional front yard, would it be within?
Like if Hilltop didn't exist, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
It appears that it would, it would be fine.
Okay.
Because it's set back behind the front corner of the house, and then it's 3 feet off the property line, side and rear. But again, it has street frontage, so.
But this is a portable building, not a permanent building.
So portable building? It was on a permanent foundation.
It's on skids, isn't it?
It came out on a whole flatbed semi.
So it could be moved.
Yeah.
All right.
It's different
All
from-
right, any other questions for staff? Any discussion amongst the board?
I have something to say here, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rutledge? Sir, I appreciate your input, and this board normally tries to help people out. However, in this case, that's a lot of feet. This 33, that's a lot of feet, and that's a big structure. If we were to approve this, we're gonna open up the door for other cases like this. If maybe you can get something smaller and bring it up before the board or something. Otherwise, right now, I cannot see myself approving this. And do you, let him talk something before I make a motion?
I'm sorry, he was-
Yes, you addressed him, so he has, I think he would have a chance to
Go
go
ahead.
back.
I understand where you're coming from on that. I believe that in looking at this particular property and where I showed you that it's from an aerial view, it is very different from the other properties. The chances of having the same situation to where this becomes a common thing, I believe would be very limited, because we're only dealing with one corner lots, two corner lots that have the vast majority of their yard space being in what is considered the front yard. And in comparison to those homes around me, it is very different in that aspect. So I would think that that would have to come into play if you had other folks looking for variance.
Any other questions while he's there? Any other questions for the applicant? Any other discussion amongst the board?
I can't tell from scale, would it not fit rotated just as a point of reference based on the pictures I see? I know that seems like the neighbor's shrubbery that's all against the building. Is the property such that it would not have fit rotated?
No, it would
And
not.
aligned with the house?
No, it would not fit rotated. And again, I was unaware of the whole side yard being the front yard. In my thought, I was putting it in an excellent area to where it was less viewable. There's no homes across the street that are looking at my property. The neighbor behind it, all of the overgrowth belongs to her. She can't even see it. So really no one has a direct line of sight to it. And if we're worried about the appeal of the neighborhood, I think I've proven that case as well on what my neighbors feel about it.
Thank you, Mr. Rutledge.
Okay, thank you.
One other question for staff. This was posted. Signs.
Yes, advertised in
Signs
papers,
posted.
signs been out there for
Any-
2 or 3
any
weeks.
Negative.
We receive several calls. We always get calls because people see a public notice sign and they think something commercial is getting ready to happen. So most people are just curious, but we did get a few calls, as Mr. Rutledge acknowledged. People called in support saying that they had no problem with the structure and general statements like that.
Okay. All right, any discussion amongst the board?
But as far as finding of facts, I mean, I think it's given to us. I know that how the recommendations are categorized. Can we kind of discuss a little bit, like, my understanding of the finding of facts?
Sure.
I believe it meets all four of the prongs of the variance allowance. As I understand it, they say that does not meet. They acknowledge that B complies. That meet they kind of concede that B would be compliant with or part of the variance, that it meets that prong. As far as A, I mean, because it specifically says size and shape, I think because of the shape of the yard and then the size of the backyard, I mean, they are pretty heavily restricted as what they can put in the property as well. And C, I think it meets this because of this particular piece of property. It would effectively prohibit from being able to do and add things that I think any any other home would be allowed to do it. I mean, my understanding is that it meets the side yard provisions. I don't want to necessarily say arbitrary, but if they're allowed to put a fence there,
Or if there's another house there, I mean, if that road wasn't there, it'd be okay.
yeah. So I just feel that, I mean, I think that effect, and because of that, it does effectively prevent them from being able to use the property as other people get to use their property. And then as far as the authorization for substantial detriment to the adjacent property, I mean, I don't think it affects the character of the district. But again, if they're able to put fences there, that seems like it would change the character, and that's permissible as opposed to just having a building. But looking at the pictures, I don't believe it does change the character of the neighborhood.
And I sort of agree with you. The only problem I have is precedent. If we do this for this one, somebody else can come up and say, well, you did it for him when.
And I think and they would have to show the
But
same
all
thing,
right,
that they would
see.
have to show that their yard is situated such that they have the majority of their yard is considered front yard.
Okay.
Even without the pool, they have a very small backyard comparatively to other lots. So I understand setting precedent, but every variance sets precedent.
Exactly.
And everyone is taken by case, so it's not, I'm not fearful of all of a sudden people putting, like trailers in their front yard because of this instance.
Okay. Any questions for Todd?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate everybody's input in this. However, I don't feel comfortable with this. This is an awful big structure. There's a lot of feet involved. Therefore, I make a motion that we deny this request.
All right, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
I just wanted to say, right now, this is just a personal feeling. It would be hard for me to vote against this because I use Allenby and Hilltop as a thoroughfare from Heritage Hills to get to Walgreens and some other roads. And I have never gone by there that I thought that building looked out of place.
All right, well, right now we have a motion, and we'll take a vote, but we need a second for the motion. Or somebody else want to make it? If we don't have a second, we need to make another motion. I can't vote.
But I would move to approve the variance.
All right, do we have a second for that?
Second.
All right, so now we have a motion to approve with a second. All in favor say aye. Or let's all raise hands, then I can't look both ways. 1, 2, 4. And all opposed say aye.
Aye.
It's 4-1, so that it is approved. All right, we'll move on to the rest of the business. Any other board business?
That's it for tonight.
Okay?
Maurice, let me, can I,
Yes.
Yes.
you may.
we've come up with a couple of these, and my tenure here has not been long. Don't do that, Chris.
Yeah.
What, have we ever thought about in zoning addressing a dual front yard setback in a residential district? Because it seems like this has been and will be an ongoing discussion.
Well, I think
For those of us.
it needs to be a case by case too, because you don't know what people are gonna put up.
Well,
No, I agree with
and
that.
you're
I'm
talking
just
about
saying-
having 2 front
Y'all
yards.
are free to leave if you want to. It's past, y'all don't have to stay here.
It's a good question, Aaron, because we're in the process now of revising all of our zoning regulations, our documents, and I haven't seen the final product yet, but while they still will maintain, pretty hefty setbacks, that's called like a primary front yard, and then the secondary front yard is what it'll be called, and they will be looked at a little bit differently from what I understand. I haven't seen it yet, but more to come. We will be presenting the draft information to y'all for your review as well
Yeah.
as it gets closer.
I agree with you, Glenn. I think it does need to set forth a review.
Yeah,
But I also think that it is one of those things, if you have a corner lot, which way is your house and adjacent properties oriented? It is a driver
right.
of this whole discussion that,
If it faces this street, that's the front yard, then y'all have to decide.
it is,
That's what I've always
but I
said.
have to, and I understand where Peter's coming from, because let's say the
Yeah.
notwithstanding this condition, but you've got a neighbor in their house, you're in
We-
that position.
We've done
where
things
you're-
before where
Yeah.
there's some, it's like, I look back and say, I wish we'd never passed that, 'cause you ride by it and say, it's atrocious.
Okay,
And you can see it from the street. And it's
okay.
just that, I'll ride you by one sometime and show it to you. It's like, why did we ever do that? So, all right, any other staff?
No more business from the staff, and again, our next meeting, don't know when it'll be, we don't have any applications coming up, so, but when we do, we'll bring both the September and October minutes to y'all for your consideration.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Yep.
All in favor? I'm assuming that's a unanimous.
Aye.